Inbound Marketing, prepared for and presented at the 2019 Square One Entrepreneurship Training Program. Square One is a program of the Center for Emerging Technologies. CET is an affiliate of the Cortex Innovation Community. Square One is funded in part by the Missouri Technology Corporation.
Inbound marketing, or what I would rather change it to for tonight, would be attract, engage, and delight, an entirely different way of marketing rather than just inbound marketing being a slice of your overall marketing plan. And we'll get into that here in a little bit. Why did they invite me back? Why am I even qualified to speak to you guys? I have large agency experience. I have small agency experience, although the second one I own, whereas there I was an employee, so I'm going to pretend like my second one is just as big and just as relevant and just as cool. But I've worked with a lot of clients from national brands down to a lot of startups. And in fact, the third logo up here is Stadia Ventures, but I have been a mentor, I've been a lead mentor, I've been an investor, and I've been an advisory board member through Arch Grants, through Capital Innovators, and through Stadia Ventures for the last 5 years. I've probably mentored now, through the cohorts, probably about 15 or 16 companies. I've had 3 exits, and if I was in your little group on Share and Tell what last week, we're about to do the 4th exit. So it's not my exit, so nobody clap for me, but as mentors, we get excited when we can bring our companies across the finish line. So I know you're not allowed to ask me what kind of, or who my favorite baseball team is in the middle, but if it skirts outside of inbound marketing a little bit and you want to utilize my time here to talk about that sort of stuff, happy to do that as well. There's a lot of overlap with what Chris was talking about. I couldn't agree more with the messaging. Typically, that's where I start. Oh, we have a question already.
Well, it's not a question.
Awesome.
I just wanted to challenge your credibility. I know the answer. There's only one right answer. What's your favorite baseball team?
My favorite baseball team? This guy born and bred in St. Louis, so
Okay,
it's
so
Cardinals.
we're still on track. You can continue.
Yeah.
Right? You're still on track.
Just for the hell of it, I should have said the Cubs just to see what would happen. But although, a funny side story, my son and I love baseball a lot, and he has jerseys from his favorite players on every team, and it's weird in St. Louis. If you wear anything but a Cardinals, you're like booed. And it's like, why? Like we play Mike Trout that often. Can't I like somebody who's not a Cardinal? But anyway, please ask me lots of questions. I will also, I like to make this joke as well, but it is true. I've got a nonprofit, Rally St. Louis, that works a lot to raise awareness through crowdsourcing and crowdfunding of civic-led projects within St. Louis. The cat purse there, so if a lot of my mentoring has been with folks like yourselves, fantastic entrepreneurs who have some background, might have been part of an accelerator as well. I also have an 11-year-old daughter who created a purse, and so my hardest and most fun challenge is mentoring her through all of her trials and tribulations. So branding, marketing, a lot of what I do is digital, so this is the first time I've gotten into manufacturing, outsourcing, overseas, tariffs, shipping, all kinds of things of that nature. But it's been a lot of fun. Talk about wanting to do some of the PR stuff that Chris was talking about. She won a proud papa moment here, but she won the first youth entrepreneur pitch competition at the Danforth Plant Science Center. So when you go do your PR, it's fun to say, I have an 11-year-old daughter who has a company and she won a pitch competition and speaks really well on camera. They tend to bring her on. So I can bring you lessons learned from an 11-year-old running a purse company as well. But aside from that, like I said, I've worked with a lot of clients. We'll skip through that and let's get into why are we even here? Why is inbound marketing a thing? And I wanted to use PR as kind of a springboard, because the reason why PR came around was because advertising was seen as less credible. If I pay money to talk about myself, then I can say whatever I want. Is that credible? Is that not? So the entire PR industry was basically built on somebody saying, well, if I can have a third party validate me, then it must be more credible. So PR was seen as a more credible form of getting my message out there. Well, over the years, PR has become its own game, and traditional media has its own credibility, and people look at much differently than what they did before. So now it's, what does Google say about my brand? What do people in social media say about my brand? I don't want what an editor says about me as the third-party endorsement. I want the actual people now that I can hear from them. So that became a reason for why we started moving into this. And then the other reason is anything that is, if we're going to call this inbound, like I said, we're going to call it attract and engage and delight. But if we call this inbound, then that means everything else is outbound, right? Well, outbound, the trust in outbound is eroding. So if you think about some of the numbers that I threw up here, and if you can't read any of these, I think this goes out to you guys after the thing. So if I rush through some words, because I want to get to the Q&A a lot. I think you guys get a lot more out of the Q&A than some of these prepared slides, because I just try to guess what I think you might want to ask about, and I always get it wrong. So 12, consumers conduct about 12 searches on average before checking out any specific brand's website. So if you think about that, you know, there's only so many times I can hit you up with AdWords. I need to figure out how can I become relevant in your Google search, because your Google search is basically telling Google and the rest of us, what is your intent? So we work really hard on that. Information versus an article versus ads. People want the information over the ad. A lot of these are sort of redundant, but, and I say blah, blah, blah because I hate talking about that stuff. You don't buy attention anymore. And that's really what this comes down to is advertising, you know, and I say buy. Later on, I'm going to use an even worse word, which is basically rent. You don't buy attention anymore, you rent it. I can pay money to get in front of you for a fleeting moment and hope I can convert you over to something else, and it's gone like that. That's all I got. So if I can figure out a way, instead of rent and bring you, that I can attract you, I can get you to be, I hate to use the word sticky, but it still comes out of my mouth too easily, and keep you sticky to me, and you came to me on your own volition, I'm probably going to keep you much longer. And that's what we're trying to do with this whole thing. So, cute little thing there. I used to be a graphic designer. I'm clearly not anymore. I've been promoted beyond my level of competence, and I have my own creative director now. But I want to kind of get to the key differences here, and I realized that with the lights up here, you may not be able to see this. So let's kind of go through these one at a time. So this is my traditional marketing, inbound marketing. Traditional marketing, the marketer actively finds the leads. You hear the words lead generation, fill the funnel, top line awareness. What can I do to pay to get you in? Whereas in inbound marketing, the vernacular we're going to use tonight is the marketer makes it easy for leads to find you. Boy, doesn't that sound easy. Wouldn't that be awesome to have people just come to you? But that's what we're trying to do. Traditional marketing, the marketer rents the attention of an existing audience. In inbound marketing, the marketer builds their own audience and attracts their attention of their own volition. We just talked about that 10 seconds ago. The other major difference here, marketing does this through display ads on websites, booths at trade show, emails, all the advertising things that you're used to. In inbound marketing, we do this by creating relevant and compelling content, things that people actually want, as opposed to things that interrupt, disrupt, try and grab your attention and move you over here. You basically put out a honeypot and go, hey, this is stuff I know you want. Come on in and get you some of this. And that's inbound marketing. The differences between that and the traditional. What's the payoff? Well, average lead cost is reduced on average 61%. So I think that's an actual number, what goes along with what you can already guess through common sense. If I'm not paying money to constantly get out there, people are coming to me, that's a hell of a lot cheaper. Now, it's not free because I'm having to create my own content and put things out there that people want. So there's a cost to that, but that cost is 39% of what it cost me to go out and try and get you through traditional advertising. 54% inbound marketing typically increases lead flow by that much. So these are numbers from HubSpot. HubSpot is a piece of software. They're kind of a leader in inbound marketing. So if you ever want to fact check some of these numbers, see how they changed in the last 3 weeks, because things change all the time, you can go look this stuff up at HubSpot. And they've got learning on this stuff beyond what you're going to learn from me. I'm here to kind of throw some fun tidbits out at you, answer your questions, get you excited about this, to want to look at it more. So I would recommend taking a look at HubSpot for some of that. So in short, give them something they love. So when a buyer is actively looking for you, when they're actively engaged, their mindset, literally the chemistry in their brain is different. They are receptive to what you want to tell them because they've opened themselves up to you, as opposed to the methods of outbound where they're naturally skeptical and they literally put a wall up and they won't let themselves engage with you. So we try and change that. So if you're relevant and helpful with the right content in the right place at the right time, they will open themselves up to you. And that's what we want. Let's talk about what this does then. So, we all familiar with the marketing funnel? Does this look somewhat familiar? I may have drawn it a little bit differently, but the theory here, and if you do any e-commerce through any of the e-commerce software, even Google still uses it this way, your funnel is I'm aware that you exist, I'm familiar with you, so therefore that's fewer people less are considering purchasing your product, engaging your service, whatever it is that you want them to do, even fewer than actually purchase, and then even fewer than I've purchased, I'm loyal to your brand, I will be a repeat customer. And even better than a repeat customer would be somebody who actively goes out and says, have you tried? You've got to buy this. So that's the marketing funnel. And the theory is it's fewer and fewer and fewer and fewer people, and we all march through this funnel in a linear fashion. Lemmings off the cliff is sort of what the traditional thought is. But we know that that's not true. We know, I threw the stat out earlier, it takes 12 searches for you for them to find you. I'll throw out another stat. It takes 7 touch points, period. I don't care what those touch points are, before you ever think about buying or engaging with a brand. That touch point could be you heard a recommendation through a friend, you went to the store, you saw a commercial, you saw them online, they did a social media post, it doesn't matter. And it could be multiple. It could be 3 friends told me and 2 billboards and 5 social media posts. Doesn't matter. Somewhere in there, about 7 times. Nobody goes, never heard of you. Saw one post on the website, I'm in. It just doesn't happen that quick. So we know, and I'm kind of giving you some demographic information here as well for you to look through when you have this on your computer. Millennials and Gen X and baby boomers and male and female. But all you really need to gather here is these are your offline channels and these are your online channels. So if you need to get 7 touch points, chances are those touch points are going to happen online, and those touch points are going to be something that they want and not some disruptive advertising. Everybody, we've got pop-up blockers. We completely ignore the whole right side of any social media channel now because we know that that's where all the paid advertising goes. We have all these ways of drowning out and blocking all of the paid stuff. So if I can get in a different way online, that's where they're going to go. So I mentioned the 7 touch points, right? So TV, friends and family, online. But what I want you to take out of this slide is all that messy spaghetti stuff. I swore to you, I was like, people do not linearly march through that funnel. It's because they're bouncing all over the place. This is the modern consumer journey. They bounce. And it doesn't happen day 1, day 2, day 3. I might touch you 3 times here, and then 2 weeks go by, and then another one here and there. It's messy, and they forget, and there's no attention span. So we have to constantly be in front of them in multiple different ways. Yeah?
I have a question about how you think, the idea we're always told, don't ever give anything away for free, and don't, offer up free samples, but do you think that there's any way of, allowing your customer to get to know you, to remove the barrier to, build that relationship with a customer earlier on that allows you to, streamline any of this process, or do you still think, regardless of what you do, there's always going to be that, multiple step process?
It's always going to be a multiple step process.
Right,
but can we sort of moderate it down to what we want? And when you talk about free product and things like that, it all depends. So I told you about my daughter's purse thing. So I'm not here to pimp her purses or anything like that, but literally what it is you can snap faces on and off the purse. And I tell you that to say, if you see a picture of the purse online, it just looks like a purse. You don't know what it can do. I can show you a video, but you don't get it. When somebody touches it, they buy it. Like that. It's amazing. They see a little girl, they see it, they touch it, they feel it, they buy it. Until they touch it, they don't buy it. So in her case, I'm constantly trying to get her out to have to trial, to experience, to do pop-ups, all things like that. Whereas another client of ours at Laughly, which is Pandora, Spotify of stand-up comedy, I just need to know that you like Aziz Ansari. As soon as I know you made a Google search for Aziz Ansari, I can throw an ad in front of you going, hey, like Aziz Ansari, you ought to check out his streaming stuff over here. And I can generally shortcut the path because I know what they like, because I know what they search for. So there's different ways. So it kind of depends on what you sell and how quickly can I get you through that.
Yeah.
I love your daughter's story and I love your personal experience with that. So I'd love for you to elaborate a little bit more on your marketing plan for her and your strategy for her. Are you looking to scale the purses or are you looking to keep it local? When you say people can feel, when they feel it, they'll buy it.
Yeah.
Does that mean you're going to try to get it in retail or anything like that? Just
So-
because I think that would apply to a lot of people in this room.
Yeah.
Just your overall plan with that.
Absolutely. Okay. So I'll give you a quick little background story on how we got to where we're at and then what the data told us and what we're doing moving forward. So it literally started out with a family vacation. She loves purses. She wanted an animal purse, but couldn't decide what animal and didn't want to buy 10 different ones and walked out of there going, wouldn't it be cool if there were, the classic, right? Wouldn't it be cool if there was a purse that you could change the faces on? And then that sat for like a year. And that came up again. We said, you ought to come up with an idea to fix it. So she said, oh, well, what if you could, I think her first one was like, you could Velcro it on. And we were like, that's not, we don't like the Velcro. We ended up on snaps. It was just old fashioned, snap them on, snap them off. But we liked the name Snap. So then I have two daughters, so they're the sisters. So the brand became Sissy and Snap. So we had a name, and so they liked that. So then that meant we need a logo. And then so every step of the way, I was like, you want to learn more? You do? Okay, well, here's a website. You like the website stuff? Okay, here's this. And we swore we were going to stop at prototype. I thought it was really cool that she went through all of this stuff with her dad, teaching her about startup stuff, and the little trophy will be, I had a connection that could knock out a prototype for like $500. So I was like, I'll get you the prototype, and there we go. So we did the prototype, and just like I said, when people touch it, they want it. So when we had the prototype, she would show she would wear it, she'd show it, look at this. And everybody's like, well, I want one. I want one. So we were like, oh crap, now we got to figure out how to get this actually manufactured and get it at a price point that can be done because we made this design so elaborate that, I mean, literally, the lowest price I could get domestically was, I think, $42 to make it. And it's like, if you mark that up, no one's paying 80. I mean, just double it, right? No one's paying $84. So through some connections, I'm part of a group called EO, which is Entrepreneurs Organization, if anybody's familiar with EO. Through some connections in EO, they got me hooked up with a factory that does all of the fanny packs and backpacks for the Disney company. And I'm not a big proponent of overseas, but I can get my purse manufactured with the face set, with all of the custom printing, boxed, QA'd, and sent over for $12. So now I can sell it for $30, $35 and make money, and it's within the price point of Justice and Forever 21 and blah, 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 blah. So it's like, okay, of course, when you go overseas, it takes a lot of lead time and minimum order quantities. So I had to buy 1,000 of these purses. So we've sold quite a bit, but I still have about 600 purses at Elasticity headquarters. But we had these purses, and she went on Channel 5, went on Channel 4. She won that competition. Ladue News talked about it. She's been on like 3 or 4 different publications. Every time she goes on one of those, we sell like, I don't know, 30 to 70. And we swore we were just going to give a bunch away at the end of the year as a charitable write-off. But every time you do a little PR, they sell. Well, the data shows that all of our assumptions were wrong. So you got to pick. So at first it was like, we need to go get influencers. So we went on Instagram and we found all these little girl influencers, and we gave them all purses, and they made the cutest videos you've ever seen. Little 7-year-old gymnasts going, look at my Sissy and Snap purse, and they're doing these beautiful, I mean, as a marketer, I'm going, literally, it's like, if anybody knows Seinfeld, I'm like, it's gold, Jerry, it's gold. Sold no purses, none. Those influencers sold nothing, because the people who watch those girls are just other girls. They don't write the checkbooks. So then we went, oh, okay, that didn't work. Well, who's a mom now? Millennial moms. Millennial moms are the ones having the moms now. Gen Xers, their kids are a little bit older. We're going to go after millennial moms. So we went after millennial moms. And what we got was the millennial moms loved the whole girl power, entrepreneur, girls first, we're going to show the men. They love that message. And they might buy a purse, maybe. It took about 9 or 10 times to the website for a millennial mom to buy the purse. But then we noticed there's this whole other group that's buying 3 and 4 and 5 purses at different face sets, and their minimum order, their average order was like $200 and we're like, oh, who are these people? Grandmas. Yep. So what's our marketing plan? Our marketing plan changed. We went, you know what? We're supposed to be digital first. We went and said, who's the Ladue News of every city in the United States? Because that's where that's where the grandmas were. So we're using traditional print advertising and local Ladue News type papers to sell these purses to grandparents, mostly grandmas, but grandparents. So now there's other things. I mean, I can tell you about, pushing the message of girl entrepreneurism, and I can tell you about, turning it into, the faces are characters, so can you take a character and create content? We have a children's book being written, somebody wants to make it a new video game. I mean, there's all kinds of options that you can go, but it's an interesting I'm gonna stop at prototype to, I have a boatload, literally a boatload of purses sitting in my office, to going from girl influencers to millennial moms to grandparents. So that's a little bit of our marketing journey.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you bet. And any other questions, I'm happy that you can go, hey, talk about my daughter in my presentation. So any other questions about that before I go back to the boring stuff? That's like, we went from purses back to this. Yeah.
So earlier you said about Aziz Ansari and how that kind of directed you towards
Yeah.
I read an article about cat and dog people, right?
Mhm.
You're a cat person, this article says you're shy, solitary, impersonal, serious, nonconformist, but creative, sentimental, right?
Yeah.
So I guess, the question is, then you say, okay, well, I want to hit one of those markets over the other, but do you lose people when you try to kind of put them in that box where you might be missing that opportunity because you think they're one type or another?
Okay, I'm going to take a tangent here. I love this topic. One of the scariest things. No. Because when I mentor companies, they are scared to death to not market to anybody. They feel like they need to market to everybody all the time, and if I don't, then I'm losing potential sales. And all it does is it wastes money. And we talked about paid media earlier. Chris was talking about the paid media thing. And the best way I can get the point across is to say, if you want to buy media, just imagine going into NBC and they say, hey, who do you want to target? And you go, everybody. And they go, okay, here's your price. You know it's going to be really, really high. If you go into NBC and they say, who do you want to market? You say, I want to market to millennial men between 25 and 35 that live in the northeastern part of the country who also have an interest in lacrosse. I now have it down to here. The cost to get to them is much different, and the message that I can give to them is potent enough that I'm going to get a return from them much better than just scattershot to everybody. So I have never recommended marketing to everybody. Now it doesn't have to be laser focused. You can have multiple. You know, we always talk about personas. If you've ever done, you know, it's a general marketing thing, but I like to run, you know, my clients and my startups by who do you think your market is, and let's literally like give them a name. What do they like? What are their interests? And go from there. So the startup that I'm working with right now out of London, their marketplace is team sports, investors, and rabid soccer fans. I'll explain the product later in a Q&A if you want to know that. But those are the audiences. So we say, okay, this audience, what's his name? How old is he or she? What do they like? What are their interests? This is the messaging we would give them. This person, it's Sharon, and Sharon's 35, and she typically likes to do these things, and da-da. Okay, great. What are the messages that would resonate with her? So you can have multiple messages geared towards different personas, as long as you keep it to within 2 or 3. Keep going on this other stuff? Yeah.
So just kind of going on that thought, with that specific customer,
Yep.
do you then, is there some algorithm or method to then reverse figure out how to target your marketing strategy, like TV, like as you're saying, hitting the grandma with the Ladue News print versus
Yeah.
like, you know, the daughter who's probably hooked on YouTube channels, like until you calm down for dinner. I mean, so are there, given like that specific target in mind, is it like, oh, okay, I know XYZ are the ones for this group, and
Yeah.
then,
Well, let's get one thing straight. They don't come down for dinner when you say come down for dinner. They only come down when you say I'm taking your damn iPad away if you don't come down for dinner. Then they come. So as long as we're good on that. Okay. I will also give another disclaimer. In about a month, I have a book coming out. It is, and I apologize for the language, so I'll just use the letter F, but it's F your formula, so we're not very big into algorithms. Algorithms are fine, but algorithms are a race to the middle, and then everybody else is, you know, doing the same thing, and then, you know, back to what Chris was talking about, right? Marketing is all about standing out, so I hate algorithms, but I love data. So whereas I don't want to plug something into an algorithm, I will gather as much data as I possibly can on who I think the audience is, and then do as much research that I can into where do they go, what media do they consume, what are their likes, what are they, you know, so demographic data, love. Algorithms, hate. Does that answer a little bit? Okay, I want to make sure, because I feel like you went, hey, what about this? And I went, screw that. I have a book saying screw that.
well, I think you do then support them, like, it's all about the data. And if
Yeah.
you're not gonna use the word algorithm, that's fine, but
Yeah.
in your mind, you are developing
Yeah.
a method or algorithm. to
Well, and I'll
target
give you an
them.
example. Let's go back to the purses, right? So there's an algorithm in Instagram to make sure that you're constantly, you know, because if anybody's played the Instagram game, you go up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down, right? Well, the whole reason is because people are trying to get to 10,000 so that you can have a swipe to go to your website. So what's the quickest way to 10,000? It ain't organically, I'll tell you that right now. They'll tell you to be organic and you won't. So what people do is the max without getting dinged is about 3,000 followers. So you follow 3,000 people, hoping that they've got the follow back turned on. So they'll do the 3,000, maybe 2,000 follow you back, and then they come back in the next day and they unfollow all 3,000. And they do another 3,000, hoping 1,500 will follow them back. And they keep playing this game to go through. To the end of the day, you've basically got an influencer with 10,000 followers who they don't even know who their followers are. And those followers don't even know what they print because all it was based upon an algorithm of, and basically AI, it's not smart AI, but AI knowing that I can have somebody follow me back and build my numbers to where I want to go to fulfill some algorithm that'll now show me in people's feeds more and allow me more functionality in Instagram. And to me, that's not authentic, and it's not the true offering content that people want and be attracted to, the whole point of the presentation today, right? So that's another little bit more why I hate the algorithms. Yeah?
Just for clarity purposes, can you really define the algorithm data that you're referring to?
The algorithm data that I'm referring to. Well, I'm not referring to any specific type of data. there's an algorithm, which is basically just I mean, you can be fancier with it, but let's just, for all intents and purposes, it's a spreadsheet formula. It's just a variable, and then the data, which is separate than the algorithm, is what gets fed into the algorithm for the algorithm to then spit something out, right? So the data, so if your question is about the data comes from a lot of different places. So for instance, back to, I'm now targeting grandmas for one of my clients, or my daughter, right? So you go to Nielsen and ComScore and these different places that have data, and you say, I want to know what women between 58 and 75, what newspapers do they read? Where do they live? What are their spending habits? You know, do they use a credit card? Do they go to, what do they do? And you grab all that data in, and then I don't feed that into an algorithm. I just want to know where they go. And then I can take that data and buy media and come up with other things based upon the information that they send me. So I know what they drink, I know how often they use their credit cards, I know that they like really sweet wine versus, well, I know that they like milk chocolate versus dark chocolate. I can tell you all kinds of stuff on Graham. Does that answer your question? So think of data and algorithm as completely, it's not one thing, it's stuff that's fed into something else. Cool. Anything else? This is good. All right. This is more fun. See, I told you, it's a lot more fun to do this than to go through these boring slides. Because I'm going to hit you up with this terrible slide here, but I think it's worth going through. So we talked about that funnel, right? Linearly marching through. This is not my slide. I've changed it a little bit for me, but this is actually McKinsey. They basically said, hey, it's more awareness. It's true, we need you to even know I exist. But that part about, hey, I'm familiar with you and I will consider you as a purchase. And the old model, that was where we start narrowing in on the funnel. Well, we just basically put these as buckets. And we said, okay, great. Purchase consideration, then I purchase, and then this new one. This isn't loyalty anymore. This isn't that last little bit of oh man, if they buy and they just become loyal. It has nothing to do with loyalty. What it is now is everybody's a critic. Everybody's a reviewer. Everybody's going to give you a 1-star, 5-star, 3-star. Everybody feels the need to tell you about their purchase experience. But the interesting thing is because that's all online and searchable, when you're over here in purchase consideration, you're reading that. So that's why this becomes more important than, I'd rather 150 people say they love my product than to have Consumer Reports call me number one. Because this stuff shows up more in the purchase consideration. I
think they're at a point where that's being overused.
Yeah.
They have Amazon, they can send stuff to people to review.
Uh-huh.
And since they're getting it for free, they're more biased to give a positive review. And now, after buying a bunch of Amazon products, you realize that even those reviews are not as meaningful as they used, as they started off to be.
I had a client that was accepted into launch. Amazon had this new thing called Launchpad. They launched it on Shark Tank, and basically it was hey, what they're fighting is it's a classic thing. You would say, hey, who in here bought something off of? Well, here, let's do it. Who in here bought something off of Amazon in the last week? It's about everybody. Who in here remembers the brand name of the thing you bought on Amazon last week? You're out there buying whatever's cheap, and that Prime will ship to you in 2 days. That's what Amazon's become, and they're fighting that. That's a huge problem for them. So what Amazon did was they created this thing called Launchpad, because a lot of the newer companies were going, I don't want to go on Amazon because I don't want to race down to the bottom and be you don't go on Amazon to build a brand. We talked about marketing and brand building things with Chris. You don't do that on Amazon. So they're fighting that. They're creating this new program called Launchpad. So Launchpad, you have to be accepted. There's a whole list of things. But once they accept you, you then don't get to participate in Launchpad until you get 10 positive reviews. So what do? You basically go to, because you don't have to be a verified purchase on Amazon, you tell all your friends and family to go in there and write a 5-star review, right? So you're exactly right. It's way overdone and it's too easy. I had another client, I actually advocated against this because it's just, I didn't like it, but I understand why people do it. You can buy reviews, half a cent a piece. There's groups overseas. You just tell them what you want to say, and they create accounts, they write the review, they delete the account, and on and on and on. So, yeah.
Do you know if there's been any, I haven't looked this up, but something I was thinking about recently, like also the post-purchase experience around like newsletter and like how to use my product and all of that I know I see so many brands that like I follow seems like so much time on.
Yep.
But the like value of what that does on a data scale,
Yes.
data level, what value that's brought.
So a lot of that comes from nobody just wants one purchase anymore, right? We need to keep you purchasing. Buy the next, whether it's a replacement or an add-on. I mean, video games is DLC content and subscription based, whatever, right? So we don't want you to buy our thing, use it once, forget about it, and then you forget about my brand. So a lot of that, hey, did you know this is 50 other ways to use my product? Did you know? What that's doing is it's going to get you to think about the product. Because if I can get you to use the product at least once a month for 6-7 months, it becomes ingrained in behavior. And that's really what we're trying to do. You're trying to change someone's behavior. So if I buy something, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people do this. You're like, I'm going to change my life. I'm going to go buy this thing. I can't say my secret addiction is small kitchen appliances. I have air fryers and waffle makers and indoor grills, and it's going to change the way I eat, and it's going to be awesome. And I buy it and I use it once, and then it goes down in the cabinet. I forget about it, and it's done. My latest is the sous vide. It's like, oh, now I got a little sous vide thing that I've used 2 times, but I can make the Starbucks egg bites like nobody's business if I have the time. But it's what you're trying to do is you're trying to change people's behavior to think about your product more than just the initial purchase so that they become repeat purchasers. And I think that it works. I think because that's sort of the core of what we're talking about in this presentation, which is give people information that they can use and want. So if it's like, hey, back to my kitchen appliance addiction. Hey, Instapot purchaser, here's a quick way to make chicken wings. Oh, I haven't used my Instapot in 3 weeks. I would love some chicken wings. Sure, I'll pull that thing back out and try it. So you're trying to keep people to kind of keep going. So in which case, I love that stuff. I love the newsletters and things like that. Those things work really, really well. Cool. This is fun. We can just skip the whole presentation. So the point I was kind of making, so if we get back to the linear, boom, 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 if we say, no, it's a lot of people in purchase consideration, just because it's late and I would like to have a glass of wine after this. If you think about the awareness, this is supposed to be the big funnel, but really what happens is I'm aware of you and I'm familiar with you. Well, now I don't know if I want to, remember, if you think about 7 touch points and people bouncing around off the walls and going, consideration, and if I was a real drunk, I'd show this wine glass even bigger because people are just sitting there in consideration, not knowing what to do, thinking about it, I don't know, and it just bogs down, and then finally they go, oh yeah, I'll purchase, and then hopefully, instead of that little bit loyalty, it spreads back out again, and you can sort of have a more robust group of advocates advocating for your brand. This is just me circling really bad penmanship with a digital pen. Look at the consideration. So from the brand side, this is what I want to, if I impart one other thing on you tonight, it would be, I think we all get the general concept of inbound marketing. Put something out there of value that people like. Hopefully they come to you in a different, more open mindset to want to engage with you more often. Great. Well, one other thing that I would say helps people engage with you isn't just that you gave them good content, it's that you give them good service. So this is traditional marketing. I use my marketing and I drive sales and I get customers. Whereas what I'd like to do is change and say the customer is at the center of everything. And yes, we have marketing and sales, but I'd like to add into your guys' vernacular service. The way that you engage with your community management online, the way you engage with them, their purchase, pathway with you, how you engage with them at post-sale, the newsletters and things you're talking about and other things, that service level is marketing too. And good service begets repeat business, and it begets ambassadorship, because so many companies suck at service that one company that does it well makes people go, you're not going to believe this. And honestly, the bar is so low. It's like, you're not going to believe this. I was only on hold 20 minutes with this company, and I only had to hit like 4 buttons to get to somebody. It's awesome, So that's how bad it's become. So if you can add a good level of service, it's just as good as any marketing you can do in some of these other channels.
Ryan, just to comment on that,
Yeah.
I've actually been in industries that relied a lot on local service execution, and that, with the statement that you just made, there have been entire businesses that I've seen differentiated, where people think, well, that's an undifferentiated business, it's a race to the bottom on pricing, why would I jump into that industry?
Yeah.
And literally, you can differentiate yourself by calling people back quicker, more quickly, and by showing up on time. And it's like those might as well be chemical secrets. I mean, people just can't unlock or fathom that you're doing this.
So to put an actual, so exactly what you said. So there was a company. It was WashU. I was in one of the classes at WashU, and it was basically, the company was basically, if you're doing road construction, I need tie bars. I need reflector strips. I mean, it could not be more basic stuff. And they were opening up, there was this company, they were opening up in that space. And it was like, well, why? Like, all that is undifferentiated, race to the bottom, how cheap can you get it? And they're like, well, we're going to do good quality stuff, we're going to treat people really well, and we're going to get it to your job site in 4 hours. As opposed to the other guys, they're like, place an order, catalog order, and we'll get it to you in a couple weeks. And they got 80% market share in, I think, like 2 years. And people are like, how? Tie bars?
This is unit for the Toro company, so multi-million-dollar unit, right?
Yeah.
A $2 billion company, and we had a panel at a trade show. There were 150 people in the room, and some really large national contractors on the panel. Most people think of Toro for consumer lawnmowers, but well over 75% of their business is B2B.
Yeah.
It's mostly in small construction and maintenance equipment. Price came in number 7 when all of these people were queried about what they valued.
Yep.
And what they really valued, if you think about it, it wasn't the price came in 7. The overall job costing was still important, but if you had downtime, the price was irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
You could charge more because the contractor would make more on your reliability than they would if they bought at the lowest price, but you might not be available for a couple of days to service the machine or to drop things off when you said that you would.
Yeah.
And it backs everybody on the job site up.
Yep.
So there was a huge point of differentiation on the most mundane tasks.
Thank you.
I'm enjoying your presentation.
Well, good.
Thank you.
All right, your tool set, and we got talking and I get carried away, so I want to be mindful of your guys' time. So the presentation, I can go in depth on any one of these, but this is what you have at your disposal, especially on the online inbound marketing. So search, social media, content marketing, blogs, forums, ebooks, visual content, all kinds of that good stuff. Content marketing could be an hour presentation in of itself. Obviously, your website, paid marketing, automation, and measurement. Some of these, again, like I said, are pretty self-explanatory, so I'm going to blow through a few of these pretty quickly. If I go too fast over something, please stop me. I'm not going to blow through the first one, though, because I think that there's a couple of good things here. So I mentioned earlier about, we were talking about, do you scattershot everybody, or do you kind of go more niche? And I mentioned about building personas. So here we go again. Build your personas. Who are you going after? What type of content do they like to consume? Where do they like to consume it? So figure out that persona. Align those to buying stages. Probably the best way I can describe buying stages would be through a paid AdWords example. So if you say computer is $300. If I say laptop computer, well, that might be $150. If I say, you know, HP laptop computer, now I'm paying less. If I say HP Pavilion model number, I'm paying even less. But computer, I don't even know what you're looking for. Laptop computer, oh, you're looking at a laptop computer. When I look for a specific model number, I know that I'm pretty much at a buying stage of I'm about to buy. So you can tell by consumer behavior where they're at generally in their buying stage, and I can give you different messages back. So if you look for HP laptop, I can say, if I'm HP, I might give you a Google AdWords saying, lots of laptops for various lifestyles, you know, from college to hardcore, you know, designers, all on sale today, you know. If you say, I want an HP then I can come back and give you a specific offer on that thing to get you to buy that day. So you can kind of align your messaging with where you think they're at in the buying process. Develop brand voice. I'm going to skip over that because I think we talked about that in terms of the messaging with Chris. But you know, obviously consistency, making sure you know this is a differentiating point when we do brand hierarchies and brand development. We always hit on. You know, I always joke, and the advertising companies used to call it, what's your spirit animal? And then you kind of figure out what's the brand personality from there. Now we just have fun. We say, what character from TV or movies would your brand be if they were whatever? So you get lots of fun stuff there. And have a diverse content mix. This graphic here is an actual content calendar for one of my clients. So you can see, this is Facebook, this is a blog, this is Twitter, this is Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. So by channel and what are we talking about, and we lay that out so that we have, and then we leave holes for, hey, something happened, I can fit it in there, so that we're not like, oh my God, this huge thing just happened. Oh, I'm sorry, we're all locked up today. I can't put it in. So we try to have some flexibility in the concept.
Is that the calendar or is that like HubSpot or what?
This is actual calendar.
Oh, okay.
So it's a specific calendar program that we use for this, but this is not HubSpot. You can do this in HubSpot, but HubSpot's expensive. I like their data, but I don't want to pay.
Are there any, I was just going to ask you actually to build on that. Are there any apps that are low cost, no cost, that people can plug into at a more junior level in their business that enable them to track and basically plan out old school marketing activities like this?
Well, you can do this. So the answer is always yes. There's always low cost solutions. What I would say is when you're first starting off, you can do this in Excel. Just open up a spreadsheet and knock it out. Or a calendar program, and get out your highlighter markers and knock out a month, right?
So I advocate for Excel because if you're doing it in Excel, it's much easier to throw in volume numbers that you expect to associate with different activities.
Yeah.
You can throw in discount factors. You can load it up with basic math to kind of show under different scenarios what happens if you curtail the spending, what happens if you're heavier in this than you are in that.
Yeah.
I mean, you can basically link everything together. I didn't know if there was anything that you were aware of that would be even more simplified than that, that's really kind of targeted at that entrepreneurial first stage crowd. I mean, I like Excel.
Yeah. Nothing is simpler. There's simple UI, but they start adding things on. So for instance, the next step, I shouldn't say the next step up, but a pretty close step up would be something called Hey Orca that we use. And yes, it's literally like, hey, Orca, O-R-C-A. But that's calendaring and content, but also we can mock up visuals and have a client come in and go, hey, I don't like that penguin over here, change that out for a cheetah or whatever, right? So we've got it. So it's more robust functionality, even though it might be a little bit simplified UI because you just plug, and it'll spit something out like this, whereas in Excel, you're, merging, cells and coloring and things like that. So it might be easier to use, but it costs a little bit of money. It's got more robust tool set to it.
The other thing for Excel, just for anybody who's thinking about this, right? So at the early stage of your business, there is a lot to be said for doing it yourself because you actually understand every single thing you did. You know, I've said before, people have said, well, business plans are dead, and I've said, well, they're not dead for the founder. Because you have to understand this at the level of detail that's required to write the business plan. It's not that anybody ever reads it when you give it to them. That was the stated point, but just like with this, you actually learn more yourself doing it yourself. And so when you do it in Excel and you've colored every single cell and you know what the color codes are and you know where the equations are, where the cut and pastes were and how this thing is set up, and you know all the people like Ryan and or your peers and or anybody else that you talk to say, hey, you know, should I change this tracking vehicle? You know, what are you using? What can I incorporate into this? You know your plan and your target and how you're going to touch them. You know that really, really, really well.
This is going to be hard to read, but I mentioned about brand voice. One of the more fun examples that I like to talk about sometimes, depending on the audience, is if you engage in social media with the dragon from Fireball Whiskey. So if anybody drinks Fireball Whiskey and sees the little red dragon on the front, people love to get drunk and tweet at him. You will get a response back from somebody on my team. So, and that team, as fun as that sounds, there's a specific brand voice to the dragon, coming right down to what's the audience, what's his voice, okay, this is what we're going to do, this is the lingo that we can use. I mean, this is a 10-page document that we give to our social media team when they get on the Fireball account to make sure that they come back in the persona of Fireball. So it's even the fun stuff has some background. Search, there's a whole thing. I think people are familiar with search, so I'm going to blow by that. Social media, I think we're pretty up to date on it. If you've got specific questions, that's fine. The only thing I would say here is what we're finding is we've gone from posts to visual to videos to now community management. And community management just basically being, a lot of people go, I've created a social media channel, great. And then we got to, I created a social media channel, I'm posting once a week. To, I post every day. To, hey, I'm posting, what's the deal? Well, people are responding to your posts and you're not responding to their responses. You're not engaging with them. And that's what they really want. They, you know, great, you have a beautiful graphic, but they want to know you. They want to engage with you. They want to post a picture of themselves using your product and have you acknowledge that at some level and go, that's really great, thanks a lot. Maybe we'll send you a free sample or something. That's what they're looking for. So community management is sort of the next tier of how to really utilize social media beyond, I did pretty graphic and posted it out there and threw $30 at it to boost its reach. There's my daughter in her purses. So let's see here, website. I think we've talked a little bit about that. Paid media, so I mentioned Aziz Ansari, so this is, Liza Schlesinger, we had him for all the meetings, but this is basically how we were doing, and we were doing these as retargeted. Again, each one of these topics we could dive down deep, so I mean, native ads versus retargeting, we can talk about that for 20 minutes. Let me ask this. Do you know what I mean by retargeting? Is there anybody, raise your hand if you know what I mean by retargeting. Okay, so a lot of hands not up. Retargeting is basically the creepy stuff, like you went and said, hey, maybe I'll buy a mattress on Labor Day sale. You went to the website and then you didn't buy a mattress, and then for the next 3 months, every website you went to, it went, hey, buy a mattress. Hey, why didn't you buy a mattress? Come get a mattress. That's retargeting. It's a little bit more sophisticated than that when done well. A lot of people just treat it really, really badly, and that's what you get. But retargeting does work. Abandoned carts. You came and took these actions on a website. I can give you a reminder. Maybe it triggers an email nurture campaign, but just some way of going, you came, you didn't do what I want you to do. I'm not going to leave it at there. I want to try and get back and touch base with you. We were at the club, we were dancing, you left before I got your number, I thought I had something. All right. I told you we did some Fireball stuff. Fireball has a little bit different thing. Basically, they just try to be funny every day, and then we boost the hell out of it to get a lot of people to laugh, and it makes us feel like we're really funny and can write for Saturday Night Live, and they get a lot of engagement. They think that they're doing really well.
On that topic, why don't you just use a bot to interact with these drunk people?
You heard me rant on the algorithms earlier, right?
Yeah, they're too broke to know.
So it's funny that you say that. So one of the startups that I worked with is chatbot technology, and they were asking me what are other areas that we could take the chatbot into, because it basically worked when you went into a stadium. So basically, if I'm outside a stadium, I can get all the help in the world that I want. But once I get inside the stadium, where are the bathrooms? Which concession stands have the barbecue pulled pork versus just the regular hot dog, right? All that stuff. It's literally a black box. So chatbots, they were putting chatbots in so that you could literally be like, hey, where's the nearest family accessible restroom? And the chatbot would respond. So what I said to them was, if you could get a chatbot to speak if I could program your chatbot to speak in brand voice, like I can, as an agency, come and go, that stuff I had for Fireball, right? The brand voice is this. It uses words like this. It has a sense of humor like this. It does this. If I could program that in your chatbot, I will invest every last dollar I have into you because that would be amazing. So to your point, it's going to get there at some point when it's sophisticated enough. But right now, chatbots are just too.
Yeah, you're saying it doesn't show your brand anything.
Right.
And
Now, there are chatbots out there. Just go to any place where somebody goes on the social media and goes, hey, Charter, you suck. And something comes up and goes, hey, thank you very much. We've sent you a direct message. Check us out there. Like, I can have chatbots spit that out 100 times a day. And people do that.
I guess my point was, the chatbot can sort of listen to what they're writing, and then if you found some signal that's, a lot of people keep mentioning, hey, it tastes like some expletive, then maybe you would say, well, tell me about that. And then they might say something else. Then you would kind of know more about your market.
It's getting there. It's getting there. We're working on chatbots that can write why it's in this realm, I don't know, but the experiment is, can they get a chatbot to write a 5-minute stand-up comic routine and make people laugh?
And you'll laugh at it. Might not be fun.
Well, I was going to say, I'll get a whole thing on Burger King, but Burger King did a really funny thing on it, but it wasn't really a chatbot. It's very easy to get me on tangents. Customer care retail. So this is that thing where I was saying you've got sales, you've got marketing and service. Customer care. If depending on the level of traffic you get, of customer concerns you get, hopefully you don't have as many. But if you do, tracking by issue and keeping the data on this will help you with certain things. In fact, so back to I said, oh, hey, Charter, you suck. We worked with Charter for 9 years. And one of the best things that we did for them was put in social media customer care. Not only that it helped to change sentiment online and fewer people said that you suck, but also we started seeing, so by tracking stuff like this, we actually found technical issues and could solve them faster than their call center could handle it, and they could send a crew out to fix it. And so what I mean by that is all of a sudden you start getting pinged by Charters out. And we'd go, oh man, there seems to be a whole lot of people in this one concentrated area that's out. So we went and we called the NOC and we said, hey, what's going on in this particular area? They went, oh man, the DNS went out. And we were like, well, how do you fix that? And they're like, oh, just have them reset the server and then we'll change the DNS settings and it'll be fixed in a week. Sorry, it's somewhat technical, but we were able to go back to social media and go, hey, if anybody in blah, blah, blah zip codes, just go ahead and reset your modem, you'll be good. And call center, so we didn't catch another one. I think they took something like 7,000 calls at the call center at $4 a call. And over where we caught it through the social media chatter, they had like 200 calls to the call center. So we were able to save that much money, and people were happier because they knew how to fix it as opposed to waiting online and you're at home, you're getting pissed off, and you're like, why can't you fix my problem? So tracking your customer care can definitely help out when you get to a larger scale.
I was wondering if you could go back a slide, and you'd offered to deep dive on a couple of things, and I was wondering if you could deep dive a little bit when we talked about the human alternative to bots, where the personality is super important. So you've got the Dragon, that's one example. I think the other example that's cited a lot is Wendy's. They're really, really snarky against all the other fast food competitors. You know there's got to be a human behind that. So what I specifically am asking you to deep dive on is deep dive on what it takes to get an entire team of humans to where that voice is indistinguishable. How long does it take the new guy to get onboarded? What happens when you lose that guy? And even more importantly, especially at that scale, what are the missteps that you make getting there? Because this is not done without risk.
It's not done without risk. That's a very good point. So it was just a bunch of words. I'd scroll back to show you the words, but basically we put a booklet together on any of our clients. Now the Dragon's fun. We also do Mattress Firm. So people saying that delivery guys dinged their wall when they're delivering the mattress, right? So responding to them is different than someone going, "Where are we partying tonight, Dragon?" But Mattress Firm has a way of handling things, and you know, there's some basic rules of the road, one of which is don't say the same thing over and over and over again because you will look like a bot, right? You don't want to say, sorry, sorry you had some issues, we DM'd you, da-da-da-da-da, right? You know, you try to help them out a little bit so people can see being compassionate and doing it in a different way. It doesn't have to be that expensive. I will tell you, our community management customer care are not. So you know, my creative directors and my senior copywriter, I mean, these are people with 10 years in the industry, and they've got multiple degrees, and they've got portfolio. My customer care people are $15 an hour. And we bring them in, and it takes a day to train them. We give them a book, we say read the book, and then we spend a day where somebody sits next to them. It's almost, I hate to say it, but it's almost like training for like a telemarketing job. So if you think about somebody coming in and learning a script for a telemarketing job, it's kind of like that. Although there are some tricks. So when I say the $15 an hour, that doesn't mean we just take anybody. We like people who have theater in their background. They love to take on personas, and they kind of get into that sort of thing. So we found certain education and certain things help out, but it's really not that difficult. You put guardrails in, and then you basically have sort of a hot list, like if this comes up, you need to run it by somebody more advanced. And then there's some days where, you know, this is really sad, but it happens way too often. You know, when there's a national tragedy, be it a mass shooting or, you know, certain areas of California right now, like we just say go dark, or only say these things right now because we don't even want to cross up, you know, when you say risk, it's our way of trying to mitigate that risk.
What about the learning getting there? I mean, the Dragon has a voice, but that didn't spontaneously pop up. I mean, there were lessons learned along that path as well. How did the Dragon develop its voice, and what were some of those risks and missteps?
So the Dragon came from, I would say there's two parts to that. So part one was before we came on board. They let one person be the lightning in the bottle guy, and then when he left, they were screwed. And that literally went beyond just social media. They literally, like, this guy's like famous now, but because Fireball does no advertising. You'll never see an ad in a newspaper. You'll never see a billboard. You'll never see a TV commercial. They're literally, by case volume, the third most popular alcohol in the entire United States, and they don't spend $1 on advertising. They spend a shit ton of money on sending people out to bars and giving away free shots and partying, and you know, I mean, my God, I have, in my office right now, I have 15 skis, and people go, oh, do you ski? And I go, no, those are shot rails. So literally, you put shots of Fireball, and like 8 guys grab the ski, and they go, let's do it. And anyway, so they spend money on that. They spend money on anytime somebody tweets, not everybody, but a lot of times someone will tweet at us and it might be kind of funny or whatever, and we're like, hey, here's a whatever, whatever I've got a closet full of, winter hats and baseball jerseys. I've got fanny packs with speakers in them. I've got, koozies. I've got laser lights that make the dragon show up on the wall. I mean, they spend a ton of money on the surprise and delight stuff, but no advertising. So lesson learned number one is they left that all in the hands of one dude, and when he left, like there was a cut. It killed them. So we got them into, it's not one genius lightning in the bottle. You can actually be creative through process. And then what we did was we then sat down and we did a traditional brand exercise. So before we said, hey, let's just talk about voice, we went through this thing where we it's another presentation for another day, but basically it's called brand hierarchy. And you go through target audience, product benefits, emotional benefits, unique selling proposition, brand personality. It's a multiple step process to get to the core essence of what a brand is. And then you take the core brand essence and then you create a message platform. And a message platform basically is unique selling proposition, 3 pillars. I always talk about these 3 things. If you have any questions about pillar 1, here's some sample bullet points of what you can do. And that can apply towards your voice on social media. It can be considered talking points for a company, for interviews. It can even be considered crisis communications. If something goes wrong, stick to the communications plan. So it has multiple purposes once you get it down to that level. So the lessons learned being A, don't leave it just one person and magic. B, make sure that everything is documented and processed. And then see how people react, right? I mean, we're always doing A/B testing. This worked, this didn't. I hate to bring it back to stand-up comedy, but it's my other vice besides small kitchen appliances. A stand-up comic writes their 5-minute bit, and they go out to open mic night on Monday, and they do it, and people laugh at this joke, they didn't laugh at this joke didn't quite hit, so they come back and they rewrite it, and they go to open mic night on Wednesday, and they try out the jokes in a little bit different thing, and they basically go to probably 3 or 4 different open mic nights throughout the week, so that when they go up on stage for that 10-15 minute bit on Saturday, it's nice and tight and they're getting the best jokes that they can because they tried different things out to get the voice and the joke just the way that they wanted it. And it's the same thing, so to your point of lesson learned, it's the same thing here. How do you react? How do you go? That one worked, that one didn't. I made a funny joke about drunkards on the side of the thing, and I got 7,000 responses. I made a joke about this. It hit and got like 100 responses. I'll throw one other thing in about voice, and back to data. I told you I got these skis, people doing shots, I got all kinds of stuff. We kept telling them, I realized that you think you know your brand in your gut, but we're here to tell you with data that it's not legal drinking age to 24-year-old men before they age out to regular whiskeys. It's actually women over 45 who like to bake with it. They went, oh, who said I promise you. And so they allowed us to do one of those, if you've ever seen them, the cameras like shoot straight down. All I see is like hands and it's fast motion, and they're whipping up the eggs and whatnot. So we did a recipe for Fireball cupcakes with Fireball cinnamon icing, and to date, it is the best performing post we ever did.
Wow.
Women over 45 love them some Fireball because it's not it's very sugary and sweet. It's great. They love it.
Are they drinking it while they're cooking with it?
They're doing all kinds. Yes, and yes. Actually, it's really funny. So I tell you that there's that data, but I was trying to be funny, so I moved into a new home in December, and towards the middle of December, so on New Year's Eve, I was invited to the neighbor's house, and I didn't feel like going over there. But for a gift, I didn't want to bring them champagne because that's a typical thing. So I gave them they're called handles. So if you go and by alcohol, there's 175 milliliter, which is what you're used to, and there's 1.75 liters, and those usually have a handle. So if someone says I got a handle, that means you got the big one. So I got him a handle, a Fireball, and I gave it to him, and she was like, what is this? Like this clown, you know, my new neighbor is kind of like I'm some, you know, whatever. 2 days later, dragging the trash cans out to the street, you know, of all the extra Christmas crap and whatnot. She's like, best party ever. She goes, those women were doing shots of Fireball like you wouldn't believe. It was the most fun we ever had. So, yes, they love it. They love the Fireball. They were all over 50.
You should have sold them a sissy in a stand.
Wasn't around at the time. This was years ago.
You could have double up there.
On New Year's Eve, do you want to do like a Tupperware party with little girls' purses, or you want to shoot Fireball? Come on.
Just one in each room.
I'll tell you what, the rest of the stuff's boring. It is, I'm telling you. So here, this is my last slide right there. Be relevant, be authentic, be engaging, be helpful, be something worth noticing. Then have a, what the hell is that? Get out of there. Go away. Oh man, now that really went away. Sorry, something popped up. Now it's just freaking out on me. It doesn't like me. Here, ignore all this stuff. Just look at this little corner here. So, no, that's, it's, but I say how the process is. Boy, I won't even scroll anymore either. Yeah, this is the computer's way of saying shut up, I've gone long. Okay, so have the process and tools to capitalize, measure, optimize, and automate. So, but I want to come back to that. Be relevant, be authentic, be engaging, be helpful, and like I said, be something worth noticing. So if you can do that, bring people into you, I think you'll have a good shot at getting it.
Just one other, are there any like top 2 or 3 brands that you think are doing this really, really well today, or that you like have a
say you
person?
liked my Magnetron.
I really like the Magnetron, but on top of
It's
that,
a shitty drawing. Sorry, this is being filmed. It's a really not nice drawing.
but just if there are just 2 or 3 brands that you would say are like that you found to be pretty engaging or doing inbound marketing better than some of the others today, or anything that you would be like, hey, go check out what they're doing.
Well, so I will caveat my answer to when people ask me what are the best types of clients for my agency, I say that I like challenger brands. And if you've never heard of what a challenger brand is, a challenger brand is typically not the market leader. They might be in 2nd or 3rd place, and they're kind of punching above their weight, and they're not afraid to be a little aggressive, be a little innovative, right?
Yeah.
So those are the brands that we tend to come up with some fun stuff with. So I didn't put the case study in here, but H&R Block was seen as the sleepy tax prep that your dad put a bunch of receipts in the shoebox and went, oh, all the cool kids did TurboTax online, right? That's what we did. And H&R Block's had an online thing out there forever, but nobody knew about it. And so they said, okay, Fallon has the national Get Your Billions Back America, file your taxes, boring thing, but they'll cram $55 million into a media buy and force you to see that. Our job was to go in and strategically hit millennial males. I forget what the demographic was, but it was very small. We decided to engage a tax professor who wrote up a white paper on why, if the United States Congress were to pass a law to give a $250 tax deduction to Americans of mustached descent, that would be a stimulus to the U.S. economy. And the way to sign the petition that would be delivered to the House Ways and Means Committee would be to basically do a Facebook photo of yourself with fake mustaches. And I can tell you, this is a fun campaign that literally ends with 500 plus people marching on Washington on April Fool's Day, just holding signs, don't filibuster my cookie duster, and all kinds of silly little things like that. Debated Neil Cavuto on Fox Business, literally got the House Ways and Means Committee to vote on the measure. It was soundly defeated, but it literally is in the record. At the end of the day, Intuit, who makes TurboTax, lost 3%, and on their analyst report at the end of the first quarter, they said we basically connect that loss to an aggressive digital campaign by one of our competitors aimed at our core target audiences that we didn't see coming. So, do I think H&R Block does a smashing job all the time? No, but I think they really hit it that well. Right now, if I want to take it contemporary, I think Popeye's Chicken is doing amazing. I mean, we all know that they sold out 7 weeks of their chicken sandwich in like 3 days, but it didn't stop there. They just, if you haven't seen this, you need to go look at this right now. They are relaunching it, and they're relaunching it on Sunday when Chick-fil-A is closed, and they're huge. Yeah. So, you know, and they've been very cheeky about it. So I think that they're doing, has Popeyes been a social media smashing success for years? No. But are they doing it well right now? Yes, they're doing really well. So I think everybody kind of has their moment. Burger King's done well. You mentioned Wendy's. You know, I feel like bad. I'm clearly hungry because I didn't get enough to eat back there. But no, I think a lot of fast food has done really well. But I think that there's a lot of others. I think what you find, and I think this just is because of their audience, I think that you find that the more socially conscious brands do well. I think that the more niche brands do well. So like Patagonia does really well. I personally, this year I'm going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe that he knows Tory Burch, but I like how what Tory Burch does online. Clearly I get really into my daughter's project. I also have a new puppy, and she got a new puppy, and they both look like a piece of fried chicken. So if you haven't seen Chicken in the City, look it up. Bless you. So those are a few.
We've covered a lot of consumer brands, and I think that's important because everybody relates to those really quickly and easily. Any thoughts or examples more specifically where that would translate into the B2B space?
Yes, I get asked that all the time. We go into RFPs and people will talk about, the client mix of my agency is probably 65% B2B. But when people say, what are the difference? The interesting thing is there's not that much difference. In B2B, it's still a person buying a product. They just happen to be buying it with somebody else buying it. They may have different reasons for why they buy. They may have different procurement methods. Maybe they're not bouncing around so crazy in a B2B. But at the end of the day, they are still busy. They are still hard to get their attention. They still want information that's of value to them. And they still need to be emotionally engaged with you to make that purchase. So there's not a lot of, we don't go, this is a B2B client, we need to put our headspace in something completely different. We just think, we go back to the persona. Our persona is a purchasing agent that has to accomplish these things, has these emotional drivers, and this is what they read, and this is where they go. And we make sure that we hit all of those things. So it may be less humor, less tongue-in-cheek stuff, but that's just style. All of the other stuff, the data, that go into where they go, creating content that is useful to them, it's just different usefulness. So there's not a lot of difference between B2B and B2C.
The human psychology is the same. I mean, it's interesting that you mentioned that. There have been different format experiments that Home Depot has done on to-the-trade positioned alternatives. And at the end of the day, everything that you said is correct.
Well, try not to lie.
No, but I guess what I mean is in terms of how I've seen those experiments and how as a supplier to some of those initiatives earlier in my career, it was little things that could throw you to believe that it was bigger things, but it wasn't. So the little things were, can I get the volume that I need in a B2B transaction? Am I going to trip over a diamond stack in the aisle, or can I get a pallet jack all the way down the aisle? But beyond that, as far as the format was concerned, a lot of those things were much less differentiated than a person might suspect.
Anything else?
Cool. We've been taking a breather. Do you have any more questions? Hey guys, thank you.